Now I'd like to take you on a little bit of a journey, a story. You know, as a presenter, you start thinking about what are the great things we can talk about. Man, there's so much stuff going on. We need to share it all. And I'm a guy that can do a 20-minute presentation in an hour very easily. I promise. And everybody's scared to death. I told the guys last night, I said, I'm just going to go off script. I mean, off script. I'm going to do a little off-road. We're in Utah after all. But last year in August, I was invited to a CEO event in Utah, sponsored by the Utah Technology Council, one of the most active and largest technology groups in the country. You know, Utah's, I don't know if you're aware of this, we're known as the Silicon Slopes. There's a lot of investment capital and technology companies that are here. So I received a phone call. I said, Chet, why don't you come to this event? Will you come participate with about 40 other CEOs? This was sponsored by a local publication. We just want to get feedback on what's going on in the market. So I showed up at the meeting. There were about 40 executives there. And one of the first questions was about the economy. How are we being impacted by it? You know, the usual stuff. And we talked about it. How many employees do you need? How many positions are open? Well, just in that small group, in little old Utah, there were more than 2,000 high-tech, high-paying positions that needed to be filled. We were all surprised. Of course, the dialogue shifted to education. Oh, I was excited about that. Wow, finally we're going to get to the real meat of the issue. And people talked a little about the needs to improve, and STEM came up, which I was excited to hear. At least a couple of people even knew what it was that were outside of education. But it's a big issue. Well, pretty soon somebody said, you know, we just got to fix those schools. I said, hey, guys, wait a second. You need to know. Great things are going on. And we have a freight train heading towards us right now. It's called the Common Core. Towards all of us. We've got educators that are so dedicated to change what's going on. All of the things that we've talked about and whined about for decades, it's changing now. And we have a choice to get on board or sit on the sideline. But students will be changing this year. We have states that are training all their teachers in Common Core. It will create a common language that will literally change the way we educate students. Well, after the meeting, I had several people come up to me and say, Chet, tell me about this. What's going on? So we talked about it. They said, where can I go? How can I help? So there is a tremendous amount of people in the world of industry that want to help. Well, as I continued on this journey, shortly after that meeting, I jumped on a plane and flew back to Washington. I usually go there about 8 to 10 times a year. We want to stay ahead of what's going on. We found that probably creates more stress in the lives of our friends, all of you, than anything else ultimately. So, and with a lot of other stuff that gets misperceived and, you know, so on and so forth. But with that, I started to sit in these meetings. And then this spring I was back there again, going through the typical policy updates, legislative updates, what's going on, listening to the senators and congressmen that were driving all of the new ESEA, or the ESEA bill that we've been trying to pass for 5 years, the new NCLB. And of course, what did I see in Washington? Toxic, bipartisan frustration with the Department of Ed because of the things that are not happening or the things that they're mandating with waivers. We have both Democratic and Republican parties saying they shouldn't do that. They're just trying to act like a large school district, forgetting some of the flexibility that's been given to states and some of the kids that have been rediscovered that we missed with NCLB. Also, waivers has created additional frustration and requirements. Politicians are saying we need more accountability from our teachers. We need to see what they're doing. And you know what else came up? They don't trust the states to make decisions financially. I said to a couple people after, guys, do you realize what you're saying to these state administrators? Many of them are carrying 6 jobs that they didn't have 4 years ago, and they don't know how to spend money frugally. I said, you need to get in touch. I realize that most of the politicians are most concerned about staying on their committees and the infighting than they are about their constituents and trying to change the world. So this creates some impact on all of us. Additionally, some of the pressure that's really driving things as I'm there listening to everyone is, and all of us are concerned about this, where do we place as a country in the globe? Well, are we 25th, 6th, 31st? It doesn't seem like the number's stabilized. It keeps dropping in every piece of study that comes out. So now what's being said is this is a national security issue. We have other countries that are so far passing us that they will have the technologists. They will be creating and innovating far and above anything that we're doing in the U.S. Wow, that's sobering. And then, of course, there's sequestration. Does anybody know what sequestration is? Raise your hand if you do. Okay. This was a scary thing. Do you realize the super committee, we heard about this in the press, they couldn't make a decision last fall. So if they can't get a decision made by the end of this year, $1 trillion is cut out of health care and out of the military. $500 billion each. And now education's discretionary, but they think that about $1 billion will be cut out of Title I if sequestration happens. So hopefully guys can pull it together. Well, I'm sitting in these meetings, of course, getting frustrated. There was a little bright spot. We heard, hey, the dropout rate is not dropping as much. Does the dropout rate decrease or increase? Well, it's getting smaller. And we see partnering happening, companies with, partners, strategic partners with states and districts. These are all good. And test scores are actually stabilizing for the first time in decades. So I then left Washington, got on a plane a few days later, and flew to Vienna to an international schools conference. The first speaker I heard was Andy Hargraves. Listened to Andy, and he said his usual great stuff about what's going on in the world. I went up to him after. I said, Andy, how are you? When he realized who I was, he said, Chet, follow me. I've got to go to the airport. I need to tell you what's going on. I said, well, what's going on? He said, come on. Literally, and we walked to his hotel room. He said, did you know that we are inundated with phone calls from around the globe right now? He said, I can't believe it. We have countries from everywhere calling saying we need help with our education system. He said, it's not just a U.S. problem. Wow. I realized then also that we've got all these global issues that are going on. Finally, for the first time, we're looking and observing what's going on in other countries. Do you know where Finland got their data that's put them in this spot of notoriety and at the number one point? When the Minister of Education was asked last year on an education trade mission, the minister said, well, we got the data from the U.S. We've been laughing because we know where the best education data comes from. It's you guys, but you're not applying it. Wow, that's a little sobering. We also know that our students today, all they care about is changing the world. They want to make a difference. That is the core of digital natives, besides the fact that they know how to use all this stuff that we're all still trying to figure out. So I came home, talked to a lot of our employees. I mentioned that we have about 120 people that are talking to school systems in one form or another every single day. I said, what are you seeing? I've met with about 20 different state administrators in the last 12 months. 20 different states and their administrators. And we see all these initiatives. We know about Race to the Top. It's changed the way we do things in education, whether awards were won or not. We know that there's this new legislation and reform where we're seeing performance-based pay. New Hampshire passed a competency-based law, which means they completely did away with the Carnegie unit. So everything now is based on students' competency. How exciting. Tenure is being eliminated. We're seeing our public collective bargaining now, and all of the challenges that we saw before are being eliminated. People are having these pleasant collective bargaining sessions because the press is there and everybody knows about it. Teacher evaluation is huge and creating additional challenges. And of course, the Common Core is driving a lot of the things that we're doing. And if you're in non-Common Core states, you're standards-based instruction, but it's all about college and career readiness. So these issues are very big. One of the challenges with all of this stuff that we're hearing now from teachers is, we want to be evaluated so we can be caught and we can be fired. They just want to show that I'm bad. You know who they are. I'm still trying to figure it out. Well, the other issue is that we've got a status quo challenge. This truck is Tom Luna's, the state chief of Idaho. He went to bed one night after an angry educator knocked on his door, and the next morning he woke up, his tires were slashed, and his truck had been painted with his name with an X through it. And literally, this is his truck in front of his house. I was told yesterday, and I've not verified this, that his mother had forks stuck all through her lawn. I thought, wow, is this education? Is this the Teamsters? I heard about these stories when I was growing up. Is the mafia involved? I mean, what kind of scary things are going on? But the reality is we've got to be very clear in our messaging. Why are we doing the things we're doing? It's not to catch anybody. It's to improve and make the lives of teachers and students better. But it's important that we all message in a way that's going to give people safety and help them be excited about it. So as we shifted the districts, we started to talk a lot about what's going on. And we visit all these districts. We want to know. And of course, there's technology. One of the things we're seeing now is BYOD, bring your own device. Parents, can your student use their phone in our class so that we can use some of those funds to get something for the kids that can't? Parents are being supportive of this. So we're seeing BYOD instead of confiscate your device. Wow, that's a shift. We've had a system administrator say, yeah, we're focused on 60 programs only now. Whoa. So focus says we've got some opportunity. And then also we're seeing tech for tech's sake still instead of technology for learning. That's learning-based, student-centered to really drive learning and help students improve. Continue on in this journey, we see that, and of course I've mentioned Common Core, it's critical. One of the things that we're finding is that implementation is light. We have districts that are telling us, and states that have told us, we've trained every teacher, we've talked to those teachers in the state, and they say, I had a half day, I'm ready, I think, but gee, I just want to see how to do it. I've had other states say, yeah, we've spent a day with each grade level, or, well, we've grouped people together and we've got them all. The reality is Common Core is a new way to do things. It is different. It will change the way we operate, but it has to be implemented with efficacy and fidelity, and teachers need to understand it, and we're getting feedback that they don't. They want to see how to apply it. We have other people saying, we're just waiting for the assessments. What we've learned is that if teachers understand Common Core, they don't say we're waiting for assessment, because the Common Core helps drive them and guide them where they need to be. So this generally means teachers need to understand how to identify key concepts, how to create learning targets, and that will lead them to the assessments that will help them to know if they hit the target. By the way, there's content in PD360 that can show them how to do this, which all of you have access to. So the other piece is that there's a lot of hesitation to actually lead out. We get scared to mandate. But you know what? Everybody needs to know and understand and be able to demonstrate the things they know how to do. And it's okay. And so we need leaders and not just managers that clearly articulate the things that you are focused on in your systems. And then finally, there's a convergence now of many programs. With all of this stuff going on, all of this pressure trickling into the state, it's not trickling, it's a fire hose, into the district and then to the classroom, we see teachers and principals buckling most from the pressure. It's difficult. And we see this confusion and chaos now with all of this stuff popping up all of the time. Oh, college and career readiness, and we're doing this Common Core thing, and now they want to observe me, and oh my goodness, am I going to get fired? And HR hears, and they've got to say we need to get these people certified, and what does that mean? And I haven't been to this rater thing, this rater reliability, inter-rater reliability, and oh, the list goes on and on and on and on, and whew, am I supposed to teach still? So there's a lot of stuff. And the reality is we say, okay, guys, we get it. What can we do? How do we help the market of education? This is where our heart and soul and passion is. How do we get to 100% if the market is overwhelmed with all of the things that are going on? Do you realize 4 years ago, everything I had on that state initiative was just a pipe dream? I mean, amazing. In fact, 3 years ago, most of it didn't even exist, and people were just talking about it. So what is our kuleana? How can we help? Well, I was sitting on a panel. I sit on a judges panel for Ernst & Young for the Entrepreneur of the Year. I had all these things come up. We always look for certain traits. These are companies that have anywhere from about, generally 100 employees on up to 3,000 or 4,000 employees. It's not little mom and pop organizations. We see the same things. I was sitting in a meeting one day and I said, wow, guys, all of the things we capture in great schools are the same things that we look for in business. And you know what those things are? By the way, if you've read Jim Collins' latest book, Great by Choice, it covers a lot of these things. I'd recommend it. So what are they? They're passionate. There's deep passion. They're focused. They're driven by the cause. You may say mission-driven. We say cause-based. It's probably semantics, but it's deep at the core. There's a lot of sacrifice. I've had meetings at 5:15 a.m. with state administrators and district people before who I knew were going to be at working until 10:30 at night. There's sacrifice, and we know what the life of a teacher's like. There's creativity. There's diligence. They persevere. They're committed to the cause, and they create a strong culture that's driven by systems and processes. Things are institutionalized, and they are committed to see it through. So that when leadership changes, these things are so institutionalized that people are not afraid to say to the new superintendent, who may change again in the next 2 years, this is what we do. This is our culture, and guess what? Here's the data to show that it works. We need you to lead and not try to manage us out of another system. All right, so in all of these things, we're trying to think, how do we help? So I'm on a phone call with somebody, a gentleman that he does a lot of national PR. His name's Steve. I said, Steve, we've got an issue. I'm really concerned about what's going on. I've brought this up to other executives in education. I've brought it up to associations. The associations say, hey, Chet, we're in. We'll help. We've got to connect the dots among parents, among politicians, among business leaders, and among school administrators. Everybody's saying the same thing. They all want to make things better. They all want to innovate and improve. But none of these groups are talking to each other. He said, well, Chet, let me ask you some questions. And by the way, he handled all the Winter Olympics scandal. He was a PR guy that came in and told me all about that. I said, wow, this guy he seems credible. And he was in Utah. I can verify some of that stuff. So he said, hey, what do you think about vouchers? It's come to light again. I said, Steve, vouchers don't matter. I mean, they're really not an issue. I said, most states give give students choice anyway. I said, what's the big deal? I said, if teachers are truly effective, they don't matter. He said, well, but if parents want their kids to go to other schools, I said, it doesn't matter. I said, first off, if there's vouchers, parents may or may not take advantage of it, but if everybody can, we're not going to have the capacity anyway. But I said, the reality is teacher effectiveness. If teachers are truly effective, parents aren't going to want to pull their kids out because they just want their kids to have a great education, right? He said, oh, okay. So you really think it's teacher effectiveness? I said, yeah. He said, well, what about dropout? I said, why do kids drop out? Oh, I don't know. They don't have support. I said, no. They don't have teachers that engage them. They don't have instruction that's relevant. They can't relate to it. They're bored. They can go home and publish on the internet or go to the library or wherever and do that, or even from their phone. Why on earth do they need to sit in a classroom and go through the machine? He said, okay. I said, it's teacher effectiveness, engaging, relevant instruction that addresses the needs of every student. He said, okay. He said, what about classes? I said, Steve, it's not an issue. We all know that class size doesn't matter. In fact, if you look at South Korea, they have the largest classrooms in the world and some of the highest achievement. He said, lots of data that backs it up. Okay, so teacher effectiveness. What else is going on? Well, we've got Livebook to support Common Core, and we have a student-centered learning system we're going to talk about soon. So he said, great. So I said, there's some things that are going on. I said, right now there's kind of this checkbox mentality, or, phew, we have it now. So we see all these systems that schools, districts, and schools are looking for. Hey, I've got a PD system. Check. Hey, we need to go out and get walkthroughs and observations. We've got a tool. Check. Oh, man, we've got evaluation. What are we going to do? Oh, there's this great form we can use, and I think it's legit. Check. Hey, we don't want to get sued. We've got to make sure that everybody is certified that's rating. Teachers. Check. Let's get a program. What about managing data? Process and work. Everyone is looking for other systems, and what's happening now is they're all converging and creating chaos that we expect teachers to sift through and understand. Multiple logins, multiple problems, and finger pointing. So he said, Steve, what we needed to do is create a teacher effectiveness system so that administrators could say, hey, here's what we're all about. We don't want to fire you. We've got a process in place that we're going to walk you through that's going to help you understand why we're doing this and help you improve. In fact, here's a teacher effectiveness cycle. We set goals and objectives as a district. We're going to identify the process for our administrators, our leaders, our mentors, and even for you, teachers, so that you can see what we're trying to do. You'll know that if somebody's going to show up in your classroom, it's going to be a few times, and you'll get it. We're going to do walkthroughs and observations. We're going to have systemic PD like we've always done, and we're going to have personalized professional development that shows you what these things look like, how to apply them effectively. You'll get ideas. Whether it's about Common Core or just good, basic, solid pedagogy, you're going to understand it. And then we're going to be able to look at the progress you're making. You may post student artifacts. You may have a lesson plan. And we'll have all of this feedback from these observers in your classroom that show us what it looks like. And then from there, we can make decisions about your own individual goals or direction we need to head as a school system. And it will continue to help you be truly effective. He said, wow, he said, I think I get it. That's exciting. And now what we're finding, stepping out of my conversation, is that other systems are saying the same thing. We get it. This pulls it together. It's helping us explain to our staff that we don't want to fire you. We want to show you that there's a system in place and tools and resources to help us get there. He said, okay, well, you mentioned that Livebook thing. Back to my conversation. I said, this is one of the most innovative products in the country. It's designed to engage teachers and anyone that's reading in live conversations with video truly embedded, dialogue, audio, opportunities to share information to really support what's going on. He said, wow, that's exciting. I said, Steve, it's already out. You can jump online and look at it. I said, ultimately where we're going, though, is that we need learning systems. We need a system in place, or a system of learning that it ties into our teacher effectiveness, that ties in student-centered learning, and ties in strong instructional leadership. I said, we've built this out. And there are little components that we're adding, but that's where systems need to go so that they can make clear, articulate decisions, and articulate their decisions to their staff so that they get it. And ultimately, the Student Learning Center system will integrate with the teacher effectiveness system. Teachers will be able to guide their students where they need to go and be able to do the things they need to do. And ultimately, if they do that, that will help us accomplish our cause of making 100% happen and having every student be college and career ready, because teachers will be effective and understand how to get there. And that is my presentation. We hope you'll join us in this cause. Thank you.